Hello everybody. Today we're going to be doing a simple meatloaf. Old school, old timey, no fuss, nothing fancy meatloaf. And I'm going to show you how I've done mine for years. Simple. I've got about 1.5 pounds of meatloaf, ground beef. And I knew I was going to forget something. I forgot to get my onions. Here we go. But I got just I like to fix mine in a loaf pan, a metal loaf pan. And I'm just going to fix one. But I bought this 3 pound of ground beef, and I've used about half of it, so I've got about 1.5 pounds of ground beef here. If I can get this off of it. There you go. I probably need to buy me smaller loaf pans, since I live alone and, you know, I'm basically cooking for myself. That way I can make 2 smaller ones and just freeze them. But I can cook it this way and freeze half of it if I want to. Now, basically, let's see. I'm going to put in, well, first I need to break this up because it started freezing at one side, and I'm afraid I won't be able to mix it up too good. Yeah, it's freezing at this end. So if I break it up a little bit right now, maybe it'll be melted enough that I can stir it up good, mix it up good. Goodness gracious. But I love meatloaf. I grew up eating meatloaf. And when you come from a big family, you know, you don't usually eat fancy, but you eat good. And my mom was a good cook. Break this up. It'll be a little bit easier to mix up when I get my ingredients in here. I need to rinse off my hands a little bit. But my favorite thing to do is I not only like meatloaf when it's first made, but I love it. The leftovers, you can just slice it off and make you a meatloaf sandwich. Put you some ketchup on there. That is good. Now, we need to preheat our oven to 350. Put in about 1/2 chopped white onion. I'm going to put in 2 eggs. Now you can use breadcrumbs or whatever you want for filling, you know. I use oatmeal. I've always used oatmeal. My mama has always used oatmeal instead of breadcrumbs, and that's what I'm using. I'm putting about a cup of oatmeal in there. I'm going to put some garlic powder. Garlic powder. I thought I had got onion powder, but I got garlic. I'm going to put a little bit of chili powder. Now, you don't have to put that in there if you don't like it. I like to put just a little bit of chili powder in there. Not much at all. Salt. And you salt it to your taste. I put about a teaspoon of salt, about a half a teaspoon of pepper, and I don't measure. And I put just a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. Probably a couple of tablespoons. Now I'm going to proceed to mix this up real well. Now some people cut up bell pepper in theirs. And by all means, if you like bell pepper, you can chop up bell pepper. I prefer just to put the onions. I don't want the bell pepper in my meatloaf. But it's just a matter of preference. And this is cold, y'all. It's freezing my hand. Just over here so you can see what I'm doing. I've just got my hands in here mixing it up, because I found that's the best way to do. Your hands are a lot stronger than a spoon. I think the hardest thing about making this dish is mixing up the meat with the ingredients. Especially when that meat is cold. It freezes your hands. And one reason, sorry, one reason a lot of people used meatloaf and used oatmeal in it as a filler, because it was a healthy filler to put in your meat. And you basically almost doubled your meat when you added oatmeal. And coming from a large family, you want your meat products to go as far as possible. So if you got a significant other, you might want him to do the mixing part. I just put my fist right down in it. I have to, because it's so... It takes a little bit of muscles to get it mixed up. Some people put it in blenders, I know, but... You know, and I've got one. My daughter-in-law got me a new blender or mixer with, I think, a dough hook and all that. I've got to get that thing out and start using it. But the problem is, I'm showing you the old school ways of doing stuff. And then we might get into the new school ways a little bit later. But this is before the dough hooks, before the fancy blenders that you could make your biscuits and your meatloaf and all that. I know in the kitchen I worked at, we use like 5-pound or 10-pound rolls of ground beef, a couple of them at a time, with about a dozen eggs. And we did put it in a great big food processor mixer to mix it all up, because that much at one time would be a little bit much for a person to try to mix up by hand. But you want to get all those ingredients mixed up good. And my arm is tired already. But the smaller your meatloaf, the less you have to mix. Now I'm gonna spray my pan. Just spray it with any kind of cooking oil or whatever you have. See if I've got this mixed up enough. You know, in the old-timey days, they didn't have these big mixers and blenders and all this stuff, so they pretty much had to do this by hand. I'm going to try to shape it a little bit in my hands before I drop it in there. Getting onions everywhere. Yeah, and I'm just going to squish it down just a tiny bit. Yeah, 1.5 pounds is about good for this. I mean, it will shrink up some as it's cooking because some of that oil will cook out of the meat. But I want it pretty much to stay in a loaf for me. So I poke my fingers all the way down to the bottom of the pan. That way it'll stay as a loaf. Not just as a flat. Got onions popped out on my stove. Let me get my hands cleaned off a little bit. I had a comment from one lady said that she really enjoyed my channel and my cooking videos because I kept it real. Yeah, I keep mine real, y'all. I don't put on any airs. I'm not trying to be anything I'm not. But here is my meatloaf. And now what I'm going to proceed to do is you can take any type of tomato sauce, if I can get it open. In this case, I've just got pizza sauce, a little bit of pizza sauce. You can use spaghetti sauce, pizza sauce, any type of pasta sauce, I can't even pronounce it. But you can use tomato soup even. Just don't add water. Open your can of tomato soup, pour the can of tomato soup on your meatloaf, put it in the oven and cook it. That's what I always used to do. Because I didn't have pizza sauce or any sauce made already. So I would just take a can of tomato soup, Like I said, don't add any water. Pour your can of tomato soup over the top, just like I'm going to do this pizza sauce. And I'm basically putting about of what a can would be if I opened a can. Not quite half of a jar of these little ones. This was a 14 ounce. But I didn't even put half of it in there. Yeah, I grew up eating it with tomato sauce. Or not tomato sauce, tomato soup. Which makes a really good topping for your meatloaf when you go to cook it. Now this is all we're going to do to it. We've got our sauce on top. We got everything mixed into our meatloaf. We're going to put it in the oven for about an hour to an hour and a half. You just keep noticing it when it starts browning much on the outside. You know it's done if it's been in there for an hour. Now, if you had one twice this size, then I'd say leave it in there for the full hour and a half. But I'm going to leave it in there for about an hour. And then we'll check back and see how things are doing when, we come back. I'm going to put it in here. And I'm also going to let me see if I can find my potatoes. I've got some sweet potatoes that I want to cook as well. And I've just got those in a regular pan. Oh. Now let's face it, have y'all ever known me to have everything together to do a video? I'm just gonna take off a little bit of this aluminum foil. I'm just going to line my pan with it. Because y'all know how sweet potatoes when they start getting done, they start oozing sugar. And that stuff is hard to get out of your oven. So I'm just going to wash these off a little bit. I mean, they're pretty well cleaned anyway. I'll go ahead and put 3 in there. And since my meatloaf is going to be in there for about an hour, it's going to take about an hour for my potatoes to cook. I just dropped a potato. But it'll take about an hour. Well, it's not cooperating. It'll take about an hour for these potatoes to cook. And you don't have to wrap them up. You don't have to do anything to them, but just wash them. Put them in your pan lined with foil and bake them right along with your meatloaf. Let me get this pan in here moved over. So I'm going to put that right in there. Now, I don't know how that got turned up. I put it on 350 and it jumped up to like 450. But, and that's what we're doing. We got the meatloaf mix. We got it in the oven cooking. We got our potatoes in there, our sweet potatoes. So, and I've got still some leftover squash casserole. So I'm going to have meatloaf, sweet potato, and squash casserole for my dinner tonight. And I'll bring you back when my... Well, we're back. I think it's time to check our meatloaf, see if it's done. And our potatoes, I'm pretty sure it is. The way you can tell with your potatoes, they should squish together when you squeeze them. That means they're done. And I think our meatloaf has been in there long enough. Don't that look good, y'all? I'll let you get a closer look of it. Don't that look good, y'all? But what I've got to do now, since I was going to eat a little bit of my squash casserole. See, there's my squash casserole we fixed a couple days, or what was it, yesterday maybe? But anyway, I'm going to get a spoonful of that. And I'm going to pop it in the microwave. And I kind of do my sweet potatoes like I do my white potatoes, my baked potatoes. Because you got to peel them to eat them. You can't eat the peeling, but you can eat the insides out. That's for sure. And I grew up just putting butter in my sweet potato, just like that. Get over here and get my plate out of the microwave. Because that casserole is steamy hot right now. And turn that oven off. Look at that. Don't that meatloaf look good? I think it does. I'm going to get me a slice out of it. Normally I would wait till it cooled off, but it cooled off a little bit. But for the video, I guess I'm going to go ahead and get it out. Or try to. It's so hot. I'll just lay it down. And I'm going to get my potato. Woo! Oops. And here is my old school, old-fashioned country meatloaf, baked sweet potato, and squash casserole. Country meal. That is comfort food right there, y'all. Comfort food through and through. I got to try the meatloaf. Get this camera situated. I'm going to let y'all try the first bite. Don't that look good? Mm-mm. That is good. It's got just enough sauce on the top. It's covering the top here to make it good. My sweet potato. And you can put a little cinnamon on your sweet potato too. That makes it good. Put you a little bit of brown sugar or cinnamon on it. But just to eat it that way, baked with some butter on it, it is so good, y'all. Oh my God, it's good. And get some of that casserole to go with it, that squash casserole. Oh my God. That's some good eating right there. So with that, comfort food. I'm going to wish y'all a good day. Please try my meatloaf recipe. Bake you a sweet potato. Make you some squash casserole, country style. And see if you don't like it. I think you'll love it. And I'll see you on my next one. Bye now. Love y'all.